Good evening. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm honored to be able to speak to you tonight on behalf maybe of the European software industry, coming from SAP, but also representing European software companies that are now in our family, like Business Objects or Cartesis from France. And we really feel like a family here in Europe, going oftentimes to Paris and other the towns here in Europe. And let me first of all deviate from my concept to really come to your point, Roberto, and stress also from my side the education topic. So it is from my point of view, and I have a lot to do with onboarding new people, making sure that we get the best talent that we have all over Europe on board to be, to staff into the most critical projects. I couldn't stress more that the need for talent, the need for the best brains in Europe is perhaps the most important topic of all. Because I guess it is so important to say that at the end of the day, so many things in IT or in any kind of innovation, they stand and fall with the people that are involved. I have not seen any successful project, not a single one, that wasn't driven, executed, and with a passion, brought forward by individuals. And I'm now 20 years in that business, and before that I've seen similar things in the academic world in mathematics. By now I can tell from looking at people, talking to people like 5 minutes, if a project is going to be successful or not. And it is perhaps a shame that we, or at least it is a tremendous opportunity to invest much, much more into our culture of engineering in Europe, our culture of mathematics, of physics, of other kinds of innovation-driven innovation drivers. That it is we have those talents, and what I'm missing a little bit is that culture, that it is worthwhile doing that, a culture that it is worthwhile going into the art of what people say, the art of computer programming. When I'm talking to professors now and then, I tell them, please educate computer scientists that really are passionate about writing code. We have lots of project managers, lots of management people. But what, at the end of the day, what is software? Software is brilliant brains writing code. And don't be confused. If it comes to high-class, world-class software, you cannot outsource that. The high-class, the most top-notch things that you want to innovate on, there you need to put your best of the best brains in. And we need to have also the culture that this is something desirable for young people. Yeah? Not only, I want to be the manager of the manager of the manager, but this, it is such a rewarding thing to create out of nothing a computer program that is then applied to the real world. That was, at least for me, when I started as a programmer, the most fascinating thing to see that what I have done is helping somebody else when analyzing finance data or whatever it is, or maybe even more important things. So now we come to the big data topic, and I'm really convinced that this is a fantastic fit to our traditional culture of education and our traditional strength in engineering and mathematics and statistics. It is has much more affinity to these skills than, for example, cloud, which is majorly an infrastructure topic. But big data is, the data is there. There are new things that produce data. I come to that a little later. So the data comes or falls from heaven almost. Then we have new technology on the hardware side. A new generation, radically new generation of computers that all of a sudden can cope with that amount of data. So we have the data, we have the compute power. All that is lacking are the algorithms, mathematics. That's the brain. And that is where we can make a difference. It is really something where you can build something out of nothing, and where marketing hypes and way how to put it out is not so relevant, because the result counts. And we have now seen examples where something really fascinating happened. Companies all of a sudden are able to transform themselves from a quote-unquote old business type, old economy business type, to an entirely new business model, because they own data. And the example is companies like Pirelli. They put little sensors, like a thumbnail big sensor, inside the tires for trucks. And that these sensors measure everything this tire does, or has, like pressure, like temperature, like any kind of things like that. And these data get transformed to the onboard unit of the truck, and from the onboard unit to a central big data, bucket. So all the data of all the tires, of all the trucks, of all the companies, logistics companies, get assembled. This is big data. This is really big data. And then this data is big enough to apply statistical methods and to get things out of that only work if you have significantly big data. So by laws of mathematics, some things only work if you have enough data. So what you want to see is, and what the business model then is to sell a service that is predicting the companies when those tires will break, in order to prevent the damage that a broken tire can do to the truck, to the load, to a delay of delivery. So it's an immediate business case. If you knew, wait a minute, this truck, this tire, maybe you proactively renew that, because we see in the data this statistical pattern that is always coming 2 weeks before this type of breakdown happens. This is what, in a general sense, people call predictive maintenance. So ad hoc signals that you do maintenance, not scheduled regularly, but then shortly before it's really necessary. You can apply that to the Pirelli case. You can apply that to the John Deere case, where you have all the tractors and the mowing machines. You can apply that to elevators. You can practically apply that to any kind of device that is able to measure the lifetime of that thing by sensors. Practically everything. So we have a vast area of new opportunities based on, if you want, old products that now are equipped with sensors, and the data is like a gold mine. It's like a gold mine. Another example that I'm really also passionate about is in a completely different area. It is in healthcare. Healthcare, is probably an area that is on the maturity level of IT not very far off. If you think about, if you go to a doctor, what kind of decision support does a doctor get when deciding on a diagnosis or when deciding on a treatment? Not so much. Of course, there is MRT and images that you can do, but the accessibility of the vast data that is there in terms of research papers, of patients' history, of clinical data, of research data is not at the hands of the doctors. And where this becomes really, really crucial are diseases that depend heavily on a genome factor, like, of course, cancer. So cancer is a disease that is heavily depending on your DNA, as you know. And since a short time now, we are able to sequence the human genome basically into a data file. So what does it mean for cancer? You take a healthy cell, you sequence the DNA, one big file of data. You take a cancer cell, you sequence the DNA into another data file. So you have two data files. And the difference of these two files is basically the cancer diagnosis. Only that it is so incredibly more accurate than anything else you can imagine. It's like a diagnosis of let's say, a terabyte of data. Practically all the disease that this individual has is encoded in this difference of two files. That makes it possible to have a much deeper understanding of the molecular structure of that disease. And at the end of the day, is leading to a completely new way to help a doctor to make a treatment decision based on a much better understanding of that individual disease, based on data that is accessible from the academic publications, and also data that is available from all the chemotherapy drugs that also have side effect descriptions that you want to also combine. And that also is put into a big database, and surely is big data, and there are now tools that would help within the session talking to a patient, to see, okay, that went well in this case, that did not went so well in that case. So let's move a little bit away from let's make it less trial and error, because it is such a severe thing to apply a chemotherapy to a human being. So you see, I'm coming a long way from Pirelli to in that case it's a project at the German Center of Cancer Research in Heidelberg, and there are so many big data opportunities in between, and it is a fantastic new opportunity to start where you are today as a company. Identify what is my big data generator, what kind of benefit is in there, what kind of gold is in there, and transform it into a value business, serving your customers or even new customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.